Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about a small new device that I got, which is called the ifootage electronic array 1 E1, which is basically a solution to a problem that I had before, but I kind of don't have it anymore. But I was waiting for something like this so long that I felt I need to get one anyway and test it. The idea is that what I wanted for a long time, to be able to use a normal USB power banks to power a camera. Let me first say the people who say, well, you can already use the USB input. That simply isn't true. Although it works a little bit, it does not really work that well, because if you power it over the USB input, it kind of loads over the battery and it ends up draining the battery anyway. It will just take a longer time. So in my opinion, the only way to really externally feed a Sony camera is through the battery department. Now, the reason I'm saying that I don't need it as much anymore as I used to is that this was kind of like the magical device. Why doesn't somebody make a small converter to be able to go from any of these USB banks to a plug for your camera? Now, in that time, several products came out. So we have this really big one that I kind of already reviewed before. It was from X-Pro. I think they stopped making them, which is a massive one. But we also have a smaller one which is now on there. So a little bit of a long introduction to a product that I think still has value. But it's also kind of expensive compared to the solution I'm using now. So let me turn around this camera. And you will see on the side a really small device. And that's actually the Ray 1 device. I will make this video in two parts. Because the way that I'm using it now is not the way that they kind of want you to use it, or not sure if they would be against it, but it's not really the way that that you're supposed to be using it if you're using it for one power source solution. So the idea is that you are able to use any USB bank, power this small device, which in the later part of the video will be more clear how you use it. That has a wire which has a normal D-tap sort of plug that goes in. So what I am doing here is a little bit different, because what I'm using is, in this case it's called a UPO, which is kind of the same thing as this one, just smaller, that already has a built-in sort of plug to go into the battery department. So I end up with having two of them. Now the reason why this is nice is because I can feed two devices. So in this case, what I'm doing, I'm using the power bank with the built-in one, which has 8.4 volts to power the monitor, or you could power a recorder or something similar. Either using making your own cable or using a D-tap sort of solution, and it's using the USB to feed the Ray 1, which is in turn feeding the camera. So this power bank is now basically feeding both the recording part and the monitor part of the camera. Now if you would have another USB output, it could theoretically also power the microphone, which I'm using the Rode video link setup, which I like a lot. It works really well. It has one downside: you can feed it from the USB, but it 9 out of 10 times gives a weird sort of collision and noise effect, where you hear an audible buzzing sound. I think there's a mistake somewhere in the road at that level. I've seen many people commenting on the line. So although it would be nice to be able to feed the whole thing from this power bank, in reality, because you need to replace the batteries in the receiver part anyway, and it does not become any smaller because it already has the room for the batteries there. I think it's okay. They will last for a really long time. So I would personally stop at this level. Basically, you have the batteries in here and the batteries in the receiver part. They take all day sort of operation. And now with this one power bank, with this one it lasts about 4 to 5 hours to feeding both the camera in recording mode and the LCD. If you really want to go big, you can use this solution. So this is the kind of the first part of the video. I just wanted to show you how I am using it. That is now feeding both of these devices. I will in the second part, which I will attach to this one, show you the Ray device itself and how it can be used, or how it's supposed to be used, because this is a little bit more of a mixed up setup. Welcome back. I now got another camera, simply because it's easier to show. I don't want to take the rig apart and some other parts. So the Ray one is basically this very small device. Let me take it apart first. It has a strap. It comes in a way that you can sort of lock in the USB plug. So basically, as you can see, it's a very small sort of device. And it's basically a power converter. They put in some extra electronics as protection. And there's two ways you can feed it. You either feed it using a normal USB 2 amp output. So you can find on most of these power plugs. Sometimes you only can use output 1 or because it's a higher amperage than the other input. It will tell you by blinking lights if it's using a normal one or a quick charge, which I'll get back to. And it has start blinking until it's ready, and once it's ready you can use that to use this output, which is the 8.4 output, and as you can see you have this power sort of plug. So let's plug it in and show you, because I do think it's a very nice product, but maybe not, maybe I will use it in slightly different ways than other people will use it. So here's the device, and the whole idea is that you can use a strap. So of course you need to take this off, and it comes with a strap that you can sort of slide in. And this product is kind of a combination between some really cool ideas and, in my opinion, some really weird ideas. But that's okay, it's workable, but it does have some weird consequences, I would say, because in the box it comes with two extra parts, which I think are quite handy, but they also seem to be working against itself in a way. If you watch one of my older videos, you will see that on the camera I made my own solution by gluing on this cold shoe connector, so that it's easy to plug in, and they kind of integrated that idea in this, so you can attach this, and there's different ways. Of course you can take some of these parts off and, or did it the wrong way around, sorry. So they kind of built in this way to be able to have a cold shoe or a screw version. So I'll take this part off. As you can see, kind of the same idea. You can plug it in, you can attach it to a cold shoe. That's really nice. And what is a really cool trick, you can combine this with this weird looking strap, which I probably did the wrong way around. So let me slide it out. It's not a bad construction, not a bad idea. But here it becomes a little bit weird, because clearly you can't use the battery on this part anymore. So you have to put it on this part, and then you don't see the power LEDs anymore. So that's kind of weird. But the idea is, and let's take this battery, which is about 5,500 milliamps. So this will feed the camera for about 4 hours. You can sort of do this strap around and then sort of hook it in like this. And the nice thing about it, now you have something that you can put a hot shoe or a cold shoe connector, and you can sort of somewhat attach it to your rig. You can also leave it off and use it to strap it around the leg of a tripod. So it's actually a very nice solution, but like I said, there is some weirdness in this design. The first thing is that you can't see the LEDs anymore, so I don't understand why they put it not on the place that kind of makes sense that you can still see them if you use it in this way. I guess you can see the LEDs when you're using it on a tripod leg. The second thing that I find a little bit weird is this is not really round, so since you have your USB will only fit in one way, and I'm guessing that this is the wrong way again. Yeah, so you have to do it the other way around. You get this kind of a weird twist in there, and I'm not sure if it will do any damage, but it is kind of weird. And the second point is, if I now turn it on, I can't see the LEDs. I can shift it about, and now you see the blinking I was talking about. I hope you can see it. And at some point it will stop blinking, and it's sort of ready for action, right? So now the camera will in fact turn on, and you can see that it's now working. So you can use almost any USB block to power this, which I think is really nice. Now you can only, on most of the cameras, or in the manual it explains you that some things don't work. And what I mean with that is, it seems that taking pictures is actually the biggest drain, let's say a peak drain, because it's not on average, but a peak drain on a camera. So if I use it in picture mode and I take a picture, it actually shuts down the camera. I think this is kind of weird, but that's what it is. I already emailed about them, but if you check their manual, then there are some cameras where it does not have enough power in the normal mode to be able to feed the camera when taking pictures. So the shutter, the physical shutter pulling takes too much power. Now I guess most people will use this for video work, and then it's fine, but it's something that you have to keep in mind. So it's now powering, it's working fine. I'm not sure why. It's just was in standby mode. See, it's no problem. It should boot up again, or it's now stopped. See, this is one of the problems. Now it stopped feeding, I think. There it is again, not sure what happened, but as you can see, it is working quite fine. Now the nice thing, let me take this off, is that you can see on the LEDs that now it is on a mode where it's not on quick charge. So the second way, what they really want you to do is to use a connector or a battery, which are only a few of them, which has quick charge. So in this case I'm using a USB hub, and you can see 4 of the outputs are normal 2 amps, while one of them is a quick charge one. And if I use that, I hope you believe me, and if I use that, then the quick charge symbol will start blinking. It has a higher voltage, and then it's able to power much more of the modes. So you don't have to use that mode, but yeah, it's a sort of an extra way of doing it. I got these extra parts for a reason, because I think one really nice thing about this is that it's also a very good solution, which you can't do with a battery solution, to power it off the net. And so I will show you the original Sony sort of solution. Look at the size of this sort of block, right? So you have to put this whole block in your bag just to be able to use this type of a connector. And then of course you still need to have the power source cable. So you can see this is a very big sort of clunky solution. And I always hated that thing, so I've almost never used it. But I didn't have a real replacement. Of course you can use a battery, but it would be much nicer if you can use something like this. And that actually works. So what you can do is use any USB. Well, I'm not sure any, but you have to make sure that they are probably 2 amps or more. But this is a working solution. And look how much smaller the whole setup then becomes. Because this is quite easy to put in your bag. You probably already have something like this with you. And this is something that can feed the camera forever, because it's not using the USB input on your camera, but it's using the real power plug input. So this is a much better solution. Of course, this might be somewhat limited. So what I normally have with me is this block, and there's more of course, but this is a USB power hub, in this case with 5 outputs. I use a lot to at night in the hotel to be able to charge all my stuff at the same time, and it actually comes with such a quick charge output, so you can plug it in here, probably feed multiple things, right? So in this case I could use this, hold on, I could use this to feed some of the lights or the microphone setup, and this will just take a normal power cable again, and this is also a working solution. So I do like this sort of small converter, which is basically what it is, to create 8.4 volts that is compatible with this plug. Now, one detail, most of them have a little bit bigger sort of input, so this 2.5 millimeters, and so it does not fit the other ones. I think it's for the rest it's kind of the same, but they made sure that it doesn't fit because they want to keep it to their cells, I guess. There might also be some different electronics in there that uses the regulating system, because it does seem to have some protection methods in there, and I think there's also some buffering going on, because it takes about 10 seconds before it has enough charge in here to make sure that it can feed a stable output to the camera. So maybe that's why they felt, well, let's put our little bit smaller connector on there than normally is used, simply to make sure that people don't confuse them. So, like I said, for me, what is nice that if need be, I can use this one and use one USB and one of these power plugs. But I actually prefer to using it with this style of mechanism. So I have two high voltage outputs, and actually I tested with both of these batteries by feeding two cameras at the same time, so I know that's working. So feeding a monitor or a recorder, depending on the power consumption, and the camera at the same time is very doable with a solution like this, or the smaller one which is now on the A6300 or AC6500, sorry. Yeah, again, it's a nice product. I do think it's a little bit expensive, to be fair. But if you can find it online and you are looking for a solution that is small and allows you to feed a Sony camera or any other camera, because they have different plugs. So they come in two boxes. So the one box is the unit itself, and it comes with a second box, in this case with a Sony coupler, and they have multiple versions for multiple cameras. So I think it's a nice product. I do think that it's sort of hampered by this shutting down on some of the photography modes, and I also think that some of the design elements they put in are both very nice, but sometimes conflicting with each other, if that makes sense. For example, the cable stuff, and I think personally also the way that the LEDs are attached, because you can't really put the battery on this part, so it's kind of weird. So what I was doing before, let me, as last thing, slide this camera back into the picture, kind of, is that I already had this set up, so I had it sort of strapped on this way, which actually makes sense. So I'm not using this construction, but I'm actually using it, piggybacking it somewhere on the camera itself. You could put it in multiple locations, so that works fine. So one of the nice things that it is quite a small box, and you can imagine that it's quite easy to hide somewhere in your setup. So thank you for watching. Probably a little bit longer again than needed, but yeah, if you are into these kinds of things, you're probably still watching. If not, then well, hopefully it was useful in the few first minutes anyway. So bye bye, and till next time.